WeBWorK is an online math homework system. One of the nice features about it is that students can work on problems and get instant feedback. One of the times that's particularly important is what about problems that have equivalent answers or multiple correct answers that look very different? For example, here's a question from calculus, right? The indefinite integral of sine of x times cosine of x dx. And there are, at least three possible looking final answers that are rather different. And when you think about the traditional written homework, students could look in the back of a book and maybe only find one answer, and they might have done correct work and their work looks different. So it would be nice to have a system that really understands the mathematics and is able to grade different looking correct answers as all correct. And this is the kind of thing that WeBWorK can do. So this is the first video in a series of videos, and just to talk briefly about the scope of this series, we're going to keep this pretty simple and talk about first how to create homework sets, and then we'll talk about how to manage users, and then finally, we'll talk about scoring. These are probably the basics that are going to be needed for a user for an instructor to get started. So this is just to give a taste for a math instructor who's never used WeBWorK, what's involved. There's plenty of things that we're not going to cover. At least in this initial set of videos. So for instance, something like giving an extension on homework to a single student. You might have a student who's sick, and is there a way to do that? Short answer, yes. We'll also, for instance, not cover how to delete a question from a homework set, at least not right here, right? These are sort of kind of later things, or asking colleagues, or maybe, you might want to reorder the problems that are in a homework set in a certain difficulty order. We're not covering these things because it might just make this overall too much. I think the idea here is to say if somebody watched this intro video and watched the several videos in this series, hopefully they're all very short, it gives an instructor who's never used this just enough to be able to get started, right? Just to be able to see, oh, this is how the thing works, experience this from the instructor side, do a little simulation to experience this from the student's side to see, is this a thing that an instructor would want to adopt? And hopefully there's really enough information here for an instructor to get started on their own. So that's why those things are not covered. So in order to get started at your institution, there ought to be somebody who probably within the math department who is responsible for setting up courses, and that request would need to be made. So for instance here, I've created for myself a WeBWorK Canvas WeBWorK Canvas as one word .uwlax.edu/WeBWorK2/ and then mth111-kim. Now you might have different naming patterns or something like that. So one thing you'll need to get started is somebody will need to have given you the web address like this, and then you'll need a username and password. Now at our institution, I would do something like this, create a username ekim, and by default the password will also be ekim. So I'm just typing in literally the same thing, EKIM, and then the first thing to do will be to actually reset the password. So in the there are two homework sets. I'm going to actually delete these, but the first thing to do is you don't want students to come in and automatically give themselves credit. So I'm about to type in the old password, and then I won't even tell you what the new password is right now, but I'm going to just use a different password and do that.